give us an insight into this budget. We had a skinny budget before. How does this differ from it? How will it be similar?
Yeah, this budget that we're expecting to see from the president really doubles down on the draft budget that we saw a few weeks back. It's going to have more numbers, it's going to have more specifics, but the general theme remains the same, which is very significant cuts on the domestic side, cuts to a number of different social safety net programs, actually a large number of cuts to the Medicaid program, and heavy spending on the military side, increasing the defense spending while cutting domestic spending seems to be the theme. And the overall goal of the Trump administration is to balance the federal budget within 10 years. So they take some pretty drastic steps to do that while continuing to spend on the military.
So Toluse, tell us why we should pay attention to this, because when we were down there last week, the Democrats were saying it's dead on arrival. We had Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, saying, frankly, he doesn't believe that Congress pays that much attention to the president's budget. It hasn't for some years. So why do we pay a lot of attention to it?
Yeah, it is generally dead on arrival when you have Democrats and Republicans both saying they're going to do their own thing on the budget. But it does give a sense of what the administration wants to do and some of the priorities and goals. If you look specifically at the $800 billion in Medicaid cuts, those are dollars that were taken out in the House version of the health care bill. So it shows that the administration is sticking to that plan, even though the Senate said that it is going to start from scratch and do its own health care bill. But it shows that the administration still wants to keep those cuts in there, something that's not necessarily going to be well received in the Senate. So we can see some hints for what the administration plans to do by looking through the numbers in this budget, even though it's not going to most likely end up becoming a law.
And beyond the budget, healthcare is back on the agenda down in Washington this week. We get an important report out, right?
Yes, the Congressional Budget Office is going to be putting out its report on the House bill, the House Obamacare repeal and replace bill that passed a few weeks back. It passed without a Congressional Budget Office score, so the lawmakers that voted on it and the public weren't necessarily aware of how many people would be covered, how much it's going to cost. So now that the Senate has the bill and is looking to pass its own version of a health care bill, they're going to have this as a standard. They're going to be able to know how much the House bill costs, how many people may lose their health care coverage under that proposal, and they'll be able to work forward with that number. So that's a very important number that we're going to get on Wednesday.
And finally, Toluse, we learned over the weekend that former FBI Director James Comey will in fact be testifying up on the Hill. When do we expect that to happen?
Yeah, we're likely not going to see James Comey in public until after the holiday recess, the Labor Day or the Memorial Day recess at the end of this month. So it may be June before the public sees him, but he is becoming more engaged with members of Congress who are working with him more on a sort of behind closed doors basis. They're talking to him. They're trying to get a sense of what he knows, what he may have written down in the memos that we read about last week about his interactions with the president. So we could see more in the papers before we actually see James Comey testify in public. But when we do see him in public, it's likely to be a very big news event here in Washington.